Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Sunday, January 2nd. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Moore. The Notre Dame game is in 244 days, the game against Michigan in 329 days. But one day ago, man, Ohio State's 2021 football season went out with a heck of a bang in a Rose Bowl game that is going to go down as one for the absolute ages. Buckeye Scoop's Kevin Noon was at that game with me. He joins me this morning. Kevin, a couple days ago, I remember we were sitting in a restaurant watching the end of the Tennessee-Purdue game that ended 48-45, and like, wow, this game is a banger. And then, just a couple days later, we got to go to maybe the greatest venue in all of American sports and watch it in person in a much higher stakes game with much better teams, and it was like, that wasn't the best game I've ever seen, but it is right up there on the most exciting games I've ever seen.
Yeah, Ohio State comes out, doesn't look very good to start the game. Shooting itself in the foot, no answer for Utah, and then things slowly start to turn, and then we just see some individual performances that I know we'll be talking about here in a second that, I don't know if I'm ever going to see some of the things that we saw, and, again, we're going to see some of these guys back for, next year, and, maybe that'll be the end of it based on where they are in their eligibility, but it was an entertaining game, and I think that when Ohio State took the touchdown lead, and we were making our way downstairs with about 5 minutes left. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. And then for whatever reason, they kick it to Britton Covey again, and they march down the field, and they make an acrobatic touchdown, and it's a tie score, and, it's on. It's on.
Yeah, it was such a dramatic game. There's so many swings, like dramatic swings, where it's like, Ohio State has finally, kind of gotten back in the game in the first half, and then immediately, boom, kick return for a touchdown the other way. And, Ohio State takes the lead 45-38, and then a backup quarterback, third-string quarterback, who I think I heard had not thrown a pass all season, leads Utah down the field to score the tying touchdown, because of course he does. What else would you do in the Rose Bowl? And then Ohio State goes back down the field and kicks the winning field goal with just a couple seconds left, and then has to weather just one more kickoff return. What could possibly go wrong? And win at 48-35. 48-45. You mentioned, some of the individual performances. We have to start with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. 15 catches, 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. He only tied the school record because he set the school record with 15 receptions against Nebraska earlier in the year. Completely annihilates the old school record of for receiving yards in a game. Adds 3 touchdowns on top of that. It was one of those things where I'm down on the field. I have no access to live stats or anything like that. And it was like halftime, and I'm like, he's got to be getting close to the school record for receiving yards already, and it's like halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. 15 catches on 16 targets. So they only looked at him one time and where they weren't able to connect. And I've kind of struggled to go back and think about that. That's one of the things of being on the road. Don't have it on the DVR. Mm-hmm. I will be watching it very soon, though, so I can see everything there. And no Garrett Wilson, no Chris Olave, though Chris Olave was in the building. And we can go back to earlier in the season when they didn't have Garrett Wilson, and Jaxon Smith-Njigba has a huge game there at that point. So, I think everybody figured that JSN was going to have a big game, but I don't think anybody thought that he was going to rewrite the record book, because a lot of records fell. Bowl records, Ohio State single-season records, and now he's really announced himself to be right there in the Biletnikoff discussions when we suit this back up in 2022.
Yeah, and I remember it was one day before the game during the Ryan Day press conference. Someone asked Day, have you talked to Jaxon Smith-Njigba about the fact that hey, it might not be so easy now, and you may be getting a lot more attention because you don't have Garrett Wilson out there, you don't have Chris Olave out there. You may become the focal point for the defense. This may be getting a lot harder. And Day was kind of like, no, that's not. I think we're just looking at this as an opportunity for him. And, one of the reasons you could have him, not be the only thing that defenses worry about was because Marvin Harrison, 6 catches, 71 yards, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns. First career start in the Rose Bowl, 3 touchdowns. There's a little bit of a parallel there. You go back to Chris Olave in the Michigan game, 2 touchdowns in the first half and the block punt. As a true freshman, kind of like his big coming out party, this felt like Marvin Harrison more or less announcing to the world, guess what? There's going to be another. He's not the exact same position that Olave plays. He was in the Garrett Wilson spot, not the Olave spot. But basically, yep. Remember all those other freshman wide receivers who turned into first round draft picks? Like, yep, I got next.
Yeah, how many times do you have a guy who debuts, his first start, has 3 touchdown receptions, and we're barely talking about him? I know we're talking about him right now, but you barely talk about him because when Jaxon Smith-Njigba does what he does, but Marvin Harrison Jr. just had a tremendous game. Everybody knew it was coming. Everybody was ready even early in the season. Okay, well, we know what we have with these 3 guys, but we want to see the next wave. And the scariest part of this all is that Ohio State has one of the most ridiculous receiving corps coming in the next recruiting class that are already signed as well. So, it's just really a testament to what Ohio State's been able to do with the recruiting of Brian Hartline, the development there, the offensive game planning from Kevin Wilson, Ryan Day, and everything that's gone on there. But yeah, I think the future is so bright for Ohio State, and there have been a lot of comments from fans of Ohio State's opponents who are just letting out an audible groan because they thought, well, we're rid of these guys, so maybe Ohio State will come back to the pack a little bit.
Yeah, and having all those wide receivers, that's all well and good, and yes, that's an important part of a passing offense, but you got to have someone to get them the ball. It feels like Ohio State, Ryan Day has probably made the right decision on the quarterback as well. CJ Stroud, 80% completions, 573 yards. That is 74 yards more than Dwayne Haskins' old record. That was in, I think, the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern in 2018. So 573 yards, 6 touchdowns, and it just... It is obviously one of the greatest, maybe the single greatest passing performance in Ohio State history, and it just it never looked hard. It always was just kind of like he had one bad throw all night, that interception that Clark Phillips picked off in the end zone. Other than that, it was this historical performance, and it just looked so easy.
Did he throw those 6 touchdowns and a half?
He did not. That's true. Okay. All right.
Get out.
All right. Then
get out.
Yeah, the guy who did that earlier this year, whatever his name was, he might also be pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, it was a real amazing game. 573, 80% completion clip there. We were talking on whatever, I guess Saturday night about let's kind of try and remember his 9 misses, and I think we came up with 3 or 4 of them, but. Yeah, it was really amazing. The fact that he did have the interception where he didn't necessarily put it where he wanted to early in the game, stalled a promising drive. Obviously, certainly Ohio State was behind by 2 scores at that point, so a lot of concerns still at that juncture. But what CJ Stroud's been able to do, and this is his first game after his, I guess I'll say, Heisman snub, where he got 4th place, where Desmond Howard kind of took a shot at him, where he then, later came out and said, this is, basically this is a villain's origin story or whatever. This is what villain CJ Stroud looks like. I think Ohio State fans are going to be, big fans of the bad guy. It's gonna be like wrestling.
Yeah, that was a statement game. It felt like for Ohio State, because it would have been very easy coming off of a loss to Michigan, and you couldn't walk around Columbus without someone telling you that the Rose Bowl didn't matter, and fell down by a couple touchdowns in the first half, and it would have been very easy to pack it in, and they didn't pack it in, and they came back and had a apparently emotional halftime speech from DeMario McCall to the defense to get the defense to kind of turn things around, and the defense did turn things around. I mean, the first half looked like, oh boy, they're never going to stop anyone ever again. And then Utah's last 6 drives, they ended up with a total of 10 points. They had 7 points. They went 5 drives with 3 points, spanning kind of from the end of the first half to basically the end of the game. Just that last touchdown drive with a minute and a half, whatever it was, left. That was. This was not a good Ohio State defense this season. It wasn't. I mean, it just by results, by execution, by just looking at the field and going, that doesn't look right, and that guy keeps running a long way with the football. You didn't have to be a real expert to figure out that the Ohio State defense was not a fantastic defense this year. But when they needed to, they bowed up and they got the stops they needed.
Yeah, Ohio State only forced 1 3-and-out, and that was the second to last drive of the game for Utah there. But looking here at the second half drives. The first drive ends on downs, then a field goal, then the third drive ends on downs, and then there's a punt on the 3-and-out, and then Utah got the ball one more time and scored the touchdown to tie it up at 45 all, and then there was the kickoff that everybody kind of held their breath, but yeah, they were able to answer, and I don't think at any point either of us are saying, well, the defense is magically fixed. They should probably put DeMario McCall on staff and have him be a motivational speaker. E plus R equals O. I mean, I don't. None of that's going to be there, and we're going to see some wholesale changes coming here. We already have seen one with the hiring of Jim Knowles. Our Alex Sleitman had the report that Matt Barnes is moving on to Memphis to take the DC job over there. That should all be announced. I mean, that's on Memphis to really make the announcement. That's how that protocol works there. But I don't think we're done seeing changes there, and it'll be really interesting to see what things look like, because you bring in a new coach or coaches, and you don't have a spot due to longevity. I mean, if it's an open competition at that point, and I think there need to be a lot of open competitions, because what we saw for large stretches of the game on Saturday was completely unacceptable.
Yeah, there was. You look at the talent on the two teams. If you just want to go with recruiting rankings, the talent on Ohio State's team is infinitely better than the talent on Utah's team. And Utah obviously did not have great results on defense on Saturday, but just the course of the season, they had better results than Ohio State did, and there were a lot of teams that had not nearly as good talent and much better results on defense than Ohio State did in time. So yes, I suspect that Matt Barnes will not be the last change to that defensive coaching staff. That's probably coming in a day or two. We'll see if that's Monday news, Tuesday news, how that all comes out. But I would expect probably to hear more there. But the fact that they won that game, like I said, everyone couldn't wait to tell you that the game didn't mean anything, and then as soon as they get off to a bad start, a lot of the same people were mad, which is like, well, if it doesn't mean anything, why are you mad? But I mean, being down on that field after that game, there was genuine joy on those players' faces. That was not like, hooray, I don't want to, ascribe motivations or, emotions to people without, without them having said it. But, the joy that you saw when they were in the Disneyland parade and just kind of like, that was one thing. There was like genuine joy and happiness and like real enthusiastic hugs on the field. And, Ryan Day looked so happy on the podium. And I don't know if he was happy or relieved. It might have been a little from column A and a little from column B. But this game, how different does this offseason now look? The next 9 months in Columbus. I mean, I said off the top, the Notre Dame game is in 244 days. How different are the emotions around the Ohio State program now for the next 244 days than they would have been if, either Utah wins that game by a touchdown at the end, or Ohio State packs it in at 21-7 or whatever, and is losing 38-17.
Yeah, I was going to say the combination of Ohio State winning the game, Michigan losing in the fashion that Michigan lost in the college football playoff, that's not going to suddenly change the outcome that Ohio State is now awarded the win against Michigan, but I think it makes the next 9 months much more acceptable, because you're sitting there and you're seeing Ohio State looking like it's maintaining on this level, and Michigan may have plateaued and now is already on a downward spike. And a lot can change here in 9 months or whatever, but a lot of people were selling on Ohio State. I mean, picking Utah in this game very much was the sexy pick out there. The line started around a touchdown and went off at 4, 3.5, depending on where you're looking. And now Ohio State pulls this one out, and it's, again, don't tell me how, just tell me by how many. And they won the game. They won the game, and it is what it is. And now it's going to be, all eyes are going to be on Ryan Day and what the coaching staff may look like, and it's going to be very interesting mat drills coming here in January and February, and then we'll feed the machine again for the start of spring football. And at that point we're going to start seeing some of those competitions. And oh, by the way, let's see what happens coming out of the portal. Yeah,
there's going to be a lot coming on. Picking Utah, who would do that?
That's
a rhetorical question. Don't answer that. It is so interesting because you go into this offseason and it's Ohio State on offense, I think everyone's going to, I think a lot of the questions about the Ohio State offense, how could you possibly replace Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson? Okay, you may have seen some answers there already, so you can kind of cross those off the list. And the defense, and I don't think anyone was thrilled with the defense and the performance overall on Saturday. They got, like I said, they got the stops they needed on the whole. You would ideally like to not give up 45 points. That's generally a good idea in football, but you can spend the next 9 months feeling pretty good about the offense and feeling like, well, there's a new sheriff in town on defense, and we'll see exactly how many new deputies there are on that side of the ball. But it feels like there is, after a month of everyone in Columbus grumbling and feeling terrible and thinking that the Ohio State football program is about to go down the toilet, it feels like all of a sudden, after a few sunny hours in Southern California, ta-da, there's reason for optimism at Ohio State once again.
Well, and it's funny because you can go and read really any message board. I'm particularly into the Ask the Insiders board at Buckeye Scoop, but just to see the emotion changes there, all is lost. This is terrible. We're a basketball school, whatever, and now there's some genuine optimism there about what could be moving forward for Ohio State, and 2022 could shape up to be the year. And to kind of parallel something that you said on Buckeye Weekly Live from the field at Ohio State, or at the Rose Bowl, is they don't have to come out there and suddenly become 14 points better. Be 7 points better. Be 7 points better. Be more consistent, and this offense is still going to provide. I think that if you can sit there and take a little bit of the pressure off of them, and instead of having to feel like you've got to score 35, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it is. There is going to be. There's so much to unpack from this game. I feel like we did an hour on the Buckeye Weekly post-game live show, and I feel like we barely scratched the surface on half of this game, and 2% of the future impact of this game and what's to come in the next few weeks. And as you said, coaching changes and transfer portal and NFL decisions and National Signing Day in February and all that stuff. This is the king is dead. Long live the king. The season is over. Long live the new season. The 2022 season is here. Calendar says so. So it is going to be a fantastic time to be in the Ohio State football talking business. It should be a very, very busy, very active year, and we are so grateful. We are truly, truly grateful to everyone who has listened and watched and been a part of these shows, but whether Buckeye Weekly or Big Me Kickoff or Morning Scoop. We are truly, truly grateful for everyone for their support throughout a long and very interesting football season. And boy, it's going to be another really, really exciting year of Ohio State football ahead. So we do appreciate that. Some of the ways, if you are looking to support us, some of the ways you can do that is if you are on listening on a podcast device, hit the 5-star review, leave us a 5-star rating, leave us a review. That helps folks find the show. And also, if you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button and then hit the bell icon. That will help you get notified every time we post a new show. I suspect Tony Gerderman and I may do like a long Buckeye Weekly live show at some point because there's so much to talk about, and I really kind of want to rewatch the game before we do that. But I have a feeling we'll do probably a good long live show at some point this week. There's going to be so much to talk about. So again, we really appreciate your support, appreciate your listenership, your viewership, and all that good stuff. And we will, guess what? The off-season starts today, and check your watch. Yes, the off-season starts today, and we'll have plenty to talk about, and we will be back to talk to you about it tomorrow.